columnist. Good day for him to join us with all this latest news. Just pour a little, all you need are some peanuts, and you have yourself a three-ring circus here in Missouri. STLtoday.com, St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Tony, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Hi,
How
Tony.
is everybody doing today?
We're doing good. So we were talking to Greg Willard, our legal analyst, last hour, and we were trying to separate this Scott Vaughn story. Sure is scintillating. It's an HBO miniseries worthy, but are we getting too far away from the actual charge, right, of what Eric Greitens was charged with? Seems like, right?
The most significant things that happened yesterday were really a big deal, and that is that Judge Beadham in Jefferson City ruled that the Confide lawsuit, the lawsuit that alleges that the governor violated open records and records retention laws by using an app that destroys text messages, that can go forward. The governor's attorneys had filed their second motion to dismiss, and they lost. A couple of the charges or of the counts were dismissed, but that lawsuit goes forward. And the reason that is such a big deal is that's the one place where the governor's likely to be deposed. Governor doesn't have to take the stand in the criminal case. Governor's refusing to testify in the House investigation. He's going to have to answer interrogatories, and he's already being attempted to be deposed by the attorneys who filed that lawsuit. That's a big deal. That opens up a whole can of worms for the attorneys to start questioning. And so that development, which happened late last night or late yesterday afternoon, is really a big deal. Then you have on the impeachment side the House going to the extraordinary step of issuing an addendum to their previous report for the basic purpose of refuting the what they're calling the lies of the governor's attorneys when they tried to say that one of the victims' testimonies was showed that she wasn't credible. In fact, the House issued a new report with new transcripts saying we continue to find her very credible and that her story is the same over and over and over again. That bodes very poorly for the governor on the impeachment front and probably on the criminal case front because, again, you have these, while it's a completely different process, a political process versus a legal process, you have this group of bipartisan folks that includes several attorneys who are looking at this testimony, who have interviewed the woman and the other witnesses, and they're continuing to say she's credible. That is bad news for the governor. So those are the big things that happened yesterday. The Fawn thing is a sideshow, but it's a really bad sideshow because it hurts all of us who are actually in the business of journalism. Here's this pretend journalist who is a publisher of a magazine, who is influential in political circles, who has taken $50,000 in cash, probably from another source. And if your listeners didn't read my Monday column, they should go read it now because that gives a pretty good indication of where that source of funds probably came from. And he's paying as part of this process. His publication should be banned from the Capitol if I had a choice in the matter.
Tony, it seems like the Ed Dowd lawyers are trying to keep the governor out of jail. And that is a very different strategy than keeping him in office.
Right. I don't think anybody on the Greitens team, with the possible exception of the governor, truly believes that he's going to be staying in office or that he has a future political career. The moment that Scott Rosenblum was hired was the moment that you knew that this is serious. They're trying to keep him out of jail. This is not a political process anymore. This is about keeping him out of jail. And that's what Scott Rosenblum does.
Now, I'm short on time because there's a lot of angles on this. Now, you mentioned the House had that addendum yesterday, which I agree with you is extraordinary, that they sort of refiled more information, sort of defending this woman's honor. But did I also read where they're getting ready this week to release their report on the Mission Continues investigation?
Yes, sometime this week they are going to release some form of a report on their ongoing investigation into Mission Continues. So I believe it will be a report much like the report that they issued on the governor's sexual predatory behavior towards his victim. And more than likely, it will indicate a series of potential violations of law by the governor related to Mission Continues. We've already had Attorney General Josh Hawley saying he saw violations of law. We've already had the Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner charge the governor with a violation of law related to Mission Continues. My understanding is this report is going to at least tease at multiple potential violations of law related to the governor's use of Mission Continue donor list.
What do you make of the news that Eric Greitens keeps meeting with lawmakers behind closed doors?
I believe that it's one of two things. One, the governor and or his political advisor, Jeff Rowe, still seems to think that they can head off impeachment. I think they're delusional if they really think that they can. Or two, the governor really doesn't have a lot to do right now, and he's trying to look busy.
I'm getting a sense from Jefferson City that they want him to resign, but they don't want to bring the impeachment against him because that's going to cause all sorts of problems with their base. And so the party's fractured, and they'd much rather have him resign than actually stand up and have a profile in courage.
Oh, they would absolutely much rather have him resign. There are plenty of lawmakers in that body who don't want to take a stand, who don't want to take a vote. I believe the leaders are committed to impeachment. I believe they have the votes, and I think that's where we're ultimately headed. But you know, the governor is a former Navy SEAL who doesn't believe in retreat.
Well, what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for more information? I mean, if they have the votes and some people are calling for him to step down, why aren't they proceeding with the impeachment process?
I think two things. I think when this process, the House process started, House Speaker Todd Richardson and State Rep Jay Barnes both said they were going to be true to a process, and they laid out a process. Now they've adjusted that process and made it longer, but I believe they're going to be true to that process in terms of gathering all of the information. And clearly, the information that they started looking into has led to significantly much deeper investigation than they, I believe, expected or planned. And secondly, I think they're just looking at history. The history of Missouri, there's been one impeachment of a statewide official, and it was post-conviction. And I think that history weighs heavily on folks who are going through a historic process here. And so I get the sense that they're going to continue to take their time. They're going to get it done. They're going to keep hoping to put pressure on the governor so that he resigns, so they don't have to do it, because they don't want to take those votes. But the people leading this process, I think, are going to go down that road.
Last question for Tony Messenger. Are you happy with the Broncos' first-round draft pick?
Oh, Bradley Chubb, what a beast. Great draft. So excited.
Well, clearly the man knows nothing.
Super Bowl or bust. Got the best player in the draft.
Obviously, the Jets would have taken him, but they needed a quarterback, so that's a whole other issue. Tony, have a good week. We'll keep some questions for you for Thursday. STLtoday.com and with us Tuesdays and Thursdays.